Hello there. As the sheer horror of the events of the weekend unfold, questions are being asked. The main one being, where were the Israeli intelligence services? As Hamas missiles continue to be fired at Israel, even today, as well as warnings for the people of Ashkelon to leave that Israeli city by 3 p.m. UK time today, the answers to where were, in fact where are, the Israeli intelligence services seems to attract two main answers. The first revolves around a theory that the Israeli top brass knew it was coming, but did nothing, that they let the attack go ahead unchallenged. You can see on social media that some people are asking if the chicken coop was deliberately left open as justification for the dogs of war to be unleashed against Hamas. But I find that one difficult to believe, because this forces Israel to let its own citizens die on a large scale while forcing themselves into a situation where severe retaliation is inevitable. Thus into a situation where they will find themselves at odds with the international community when civilian casualties in the Gaza Strip begin to mount up, as they are doing. Although according to one unnamed Egyptian intelligence official, Israel did ignore warnings that something really big was coming, says the Telegraph. As much as many may find Israel's historical response to Hamas attacks distasteful, I can't see a scenario where Israel would want an attack of this nature to take place under any circumstances. The other very plausible theory is that the Al-Qassam brigades, which is the armed wing of Hamas, went back to the Stone Age in order to sidestep the highly sophisticated electronic surveillance that the Israelis have access to. Word of mouth and mechanical typewriters and the like maybe. Training to conduct attacks using timing and not mobile phones. No radio and no encrypted communications that could signal an upcoming operation. A lesson they've maybe pulled out of the early Russian casualties in Ukraine that were targeted while using their mobile devices. And that such an op can be conducted against a very militarized and protected state like Israel will have many intelligence and security experts rewriting whole chapters of their operational manuals. But when you can no longer rely on tech to catch the terrorist, you're back to more feet on the ground. And a very big question: where else are they mobilizing for such attacks? But however it came about, Israel is set to go into Gaza in overwhelming force to quell Hamas for a generation. But this heavy-handedness has been forced on them by the terrorist actions and hostage-taking by Hamas. The nature of the attack unequivocally demonstrates Hamas has stepped up its long-standing policy of deliberate provocation, knowing Israel will have to respond at the very least in a proportionate manner. However, one wonders what other response Israel could have made, without looking weak. But Hamas wants Israel to respond harshly, and the Hamas backers in Iran are applauding the attacks as they ready themselves for war with Israel. But how many other countries will side with Iran? I can foresee a situation where just about the whole world turns its back on Israel if its retaliation is seen by them to be disproportionately harsh. Israel has already put Gaza under siege, cutting off food, water and power, as well as delivering constant air attacks, with Hamas responding by calling for an escalation of action against Israel. This is getting very unpretty very fast on a very large scale. And finally, poor old Keir Starmer. He gets on stage to give his keynote conference speech, and this happens.
True democracy is citizen-led. Politics needs an update. We demand a people's house. We demand a people's house.
The only glitter in the whole speech. Well done, security and stewards, although the horse had already bolted. But I wish the police could do that last bit with every eco-loon. Richard.
Over the years, Jeff and I have had our fair share of heated debates, we'll say, and we are hoping to show you more of those on Sundays. I was hoping it'd be this Sunday to start with, but I'm afraid not. I mean, we have disagreed on many things, like the skirmish between the Ukraine and Russia. We've had quite some heated debates on that, and the royal family. Oh, yes. But there's nothing more divisive, I think. I mean, even the Bible says that Israel would be a stumbling block for the nations, all the nations, and it's very difficult to approach the subject of Israel without offending somebody somewhere along the line. But if you thought Brexit was divisive or the Ukraine Russian conflict was divisive, you ain't seen nothing. People very much come down on certain sides on this subject matter, and it's an incredibly nuanced situation. As somebody who has looked into both sides of this debate quite extensively, in my house we have quite interesting conversations because my good lady, she has a degree in Middle Eastern studies, and I myself have a personal affiliation with the Middle East as well. Are you on the side of the people who did what they did last week? An awful situation where young people, children, old, didn't matter. They were taken deliberately, quite deliberately, as hostages and killed. Well, what about the bombings of Palestine by the IDF? Okay, well, they weren't particularly clever, but they did give warning as well. We're going to bomb these areas. And they were attacking back at point of origin from missile launches, which anybody would do, regardless. Oh, and of course then, this is too divisive a subject and too passionate. People have died in this conflict on both sides. And it's always the innocent that are forgotten. And it's always the polemic, I'm on the Israeli side, I'm on the Palestinian side argument that comes to the forefront. It's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, there's more to that. There is a great evil at work here. And this is the point which I really want to get to on this. I saw the other day, Carl Vernon. Well done, Carl. Brilliant. You came out and you said that you've changed your mind on God. And that it is undeniable. The other day I watched Jordan Peterson doing his best to say that he doesn't believe in God. I mean, that was fantastic. That Piers Morgan interview was brilliant. And it took his daughter, Michaela, to actually glean the truth out of him, sort of. But when you do look into world events, like Jeff and myself do, and you look quite in depth, and I've gone through every side of it, believe me, you come to, well, it's the elephant in the room, really. When you're dissecting everything that's going on, when you've gone through every side of every argument, especially when it comes to Palestine, when it comes to the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, when it comes to the pandemic, you start to see certain points of commonality here. Whether you're Christian or not is another matter, but a lot of people who look into these things are starting to observe this. And this is very much at the heart, again, of the Israeli conflict with Palestine. There is a religious element, a good versus evil going on here. Which side is good, which side is evil? That's the question. And that's where you have to take a side. Okay, so you don't believe in God. Well, that's your prerogative. I can give you a very good argument as to why God doesn't exist, but I can give you an even better one for why he does exist. But that's by the by. I mean, let's face it. If you actually look at the scientific explanation for existence, it doesn't stack up very well when it comes to the Big Bang. I mean, it's on very loose ground right now, the whole Big Bang theory is, as is the Darwinian explanation, where there's never been ever any genuine proof of evolution ever presented to the scientific community. It is a theory. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, natural selection, evolutionary advantage through natural selection. Okay, well, explain to me Diane Abbott and Ed Miliband then. How does that work? And we won't stop there, actually. Let's look at the entire shadow cabinet, in the Labour Party. Evolutionary advantage there? No. Oh, actually, why not just look right across the House of Commons? Nope, nothing to see there. How many of those people would you follow into battle? Yeah, me neither. No.